Okay, we are rolling. Welcome everyone to today's Pursuant webinar. I am seeing participants start to come into the webinar, so I'll just give it a few seconds for some more people to join before we get started today. All right, so as everyone is joining, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items. Couple reminders, the recording of this webinar will be shared afterward. It will be sent to your inbox within about 24 hours of today's presentation. You can use your Zoom Q&A to ask questions, and we will be reserving the final 10 minutes of today's presentation for some of those Q&A questions. So if you've got something and you want to ask it right away, you can go ahead and put that in the Q&A and we will take a look when we are in the Q&A portion of today's presentation. All right, I am thrilled to introduce today's presenters. The voice you're hearing is Leah Davenport, and I serve as a Senior Marketing Manager here at Pursuant. And I'm also thrilled to be joined by Jennifer Belot, our EVP of Client Strategy, and Hillary Noon, our EVP of Analytics, Insight, and Experience. Jennifer, Hillary, would you guys like to share a little bit about yourselves with our listeners today? And Jennifer, I'll go with you first.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy you could join us for this afternoon's webinar. As Leah mentioned, I have the pleasure and privilege of actually leading Pursuant's client strategy and agency services team, and have the opportunity to work with all of our clients that run the gamut from clients that use us for our full agency capabilities, as well as partnering with some of our clients that actually use us on the technology side of things. So really happy that you could join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about an area that I think is oftentimes misunderstood. So I'm excited that we can kind of demystify for everybody what AI actually means.
And this is Hillary Noon. Hello, everyone. As Leah said, I lead our Analytics, Insight, and Experience practice within Pursuant, and I'm also responsible for our technology platform. I work very closely with Jennifer and her team to ensure that we are able to support our clients when it comes to all things data. And so this topic is certainly near and dear to my heart, and looking forward to being able to dive in and talk through this, and get some of your perspectives as well, hopefully through the chat and the Q&A.
Awesome, thank you, ladies. All right, so our agenda today, we're going to be looking at what is augmented intelligence. This is a phrase that we use here at Pursuant to describe our data practices, but it might be a term that is unfamiliar to many of you tuning in today. So we'll be first kind of going into that definition and making sure that we're all on the same page and understanding what that is. And then we'll get into why is augmented intelligence important for nonprofits. In today's day and age, you want to be as strategic as possible, and so we want to make sure that this is an application you understand. And then we'll also get into a few case studies to see some real-world examples of how some of our clients have realized the potential of augmented intelligence, with some additional next steps for how you can get started applying this practice to your own data. All right, so Hillary, let's dive right in. What is augmented intelligence, and how does it differ from a term that I think many more of us are familiar with, which is artificial intelligence?
Thanks, Leah. Okay, yeah, so I think terminology is really important, and the verses there that's on this slide is probably a little more charged than it needs to be. And as we talk through this, there's a lot of similarities and commonalities in these terms. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through this. I think when I say AI, many people conjure images of robots taking over the world and rise of the machines and things like that. Today I think we're going to be talking about some things that are quite a bit more pedestrian than that. But certainly we want to reframe that, that thinking to be robots who are potentially a little bit more, or machines who are a little bit more friendly. Think in terms of perhaps Rosie from the Jetsons, if you go to the next slide, Leah, or Wall-E. And these are robots in pop culture that had a little bit more of a human side to them. And that's more of the evolution that we want to talk about with this concept of augmented intelligence, which is how can you marry the best of the kind of artificial intelligence with the expertise, the context, and kind of the on-the-ground application that the human can bring to the story. I think if you go to the next slide, one great example of that in our daily lives is Waze, which of course is a great map and a great guide by itself. But what really makes it unique is the fact that you've got crowdsourced human feedback based on people's experience in the moment, on the ground, with traffic and other issues that they're encountering, that provide the user and the driver with real-time, up-to-date, and much more accurate guidance. So I think this is kind of the marriage between the two that we want to explore a little bit with this concept of augmented intelligence. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see a definition that Gartner uses. And, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Gartner, the kind of third-party research company that does a lot of evaluation of different technologies out there. And they define augmented intelligence as this kind of partnership model between people and artificial intelligence working together. And the marriage of those two things really does enhance performance and learning and decision making. And this idea really appealed to us at Pursuant because of the fact that we think of ourselves as an agency as really bringing together kind of the expertise of fundraisers who have been on the ground doing that work, together with the technology and the analytics that we bring from more of an intelligence and a machine side of things. So that's really what we're here to talk about today. Of course, you might be asking yourself, why should I care? This sounds like yet another potentially new phrase or shiny object. And so why is it really important, and why as nonprofits should it matter to us? And so I think, I don't have to tell you all that we really do live in a world of where hyper segmentation and personalization is the norm, particularly in our consumer lives, both for you all as who are professionals in the nonprofit space, but are also consumers at home. And you all experience this in your daily lives, as do our donors. And so that kind of expectation level has really risen. And that, of course, is driven by data and by AI. If you go to the next slide, Leah, I think the piece that we believe strongly in is that shouldn't be limited to the commercial sector, that supporters and donors should expect and have magical personalized experiences from the relationships that they have with nonprofits. And this is in fact powered by data and AI. And so we need to recognize that, and recognize the fact that we can exceed the way that we're doing things now, or have been doing things, by taking and trying some of these new approaches. If you go to the next slide, we can't engage supporters like it's 1999. Little flashback to Prince there. The kind of spray and pray approach, the blast emails and calls and forms and mailers. I mean, a lot of you, and certainly with us, with our clients, we've advanced beyond this, but it's, in some cases, it's tough to do so. And we are faced with, particularly this year, being challenged with continuing declines in retention rates and declines in new donors, we have to think differently about how we use data and how we apply intelligence in order to create experiences that are much more personalized and relevant to the people who choose to engage with our brands. So, you know, oftentimes we like to then reflect back on, okay, so what is the commercial sector doing, and to what extent are they embracing these new approaches? I think this graph is an interesting one in that it is a little outdated, but it shows you the extent to which certain industries outside of the nonprofit sector are in fact adopting AI. And in this case, this is the artificial intelligence interpretation of that word, but I think it's a good place for us to start to kind of ground our thinking about where the nonprofit sector is and how we need to kind of advance. So certainly technology, you've got automotive and assembly, which makes sense in terms of some of the manufacturing side of things, financial services, and so on. You can see that all of those top 5 or 6 or so are about a third penetrated in terms of adopting AI. As you go to the next slide and you think about the law of diffusion of innovation, which I think is a helpful way of thinking about how our sector tends to fall and tends to adopt new technology. I don't think it would surprise all of you to acknowledge the fact that we do tend to fall in that laggard category. However, there are always those who are willing to take a little bit more risk, and I think certainly I would count many of our clients in that category and many of you on the phone. But by recognizing this, the aspect that we have a benefit to us by being in that kind of category is that you can watch others and see what is working and what is not working before we actually step into those new areas, and give some real good thought to how it's going to apply to nonprofit organizations. We tend to be a little bit more risk averse in this industry because of the impact on donors and the public good, and the fact that we're entrusted with the public good. So it's always a balance there between how we can push ourselves to take chances while also ensuring that we're being good stewards of those revenues. So I want to take a moment and pivot to how nonprofits are thinking about AI and what some of the challenges and opportunities are there. I'm going to pull out some findings from a recent report on the state of AI in the nonprofit sector that was sponsored by a company called Powered By. A couple things came out of this that I thought were interesting and are helpful for us in grounding this talk. We see that nonprofit practitioners are aware, but have reservations. Again, not too surprising. Interesting that most hear about AI from their CRM provider, so very much in the context of technology they already have. And one of the biggest things that is holding people back is this belief that an ethical framework really needs to be defined. And this, I think, rings very true given the work that nonprofits do and kind of that responsibility that many of us feel for the people that we serve. So that's a big part, I think, of how we're going to shape the use of this in the nonprofit sector moving forward. If we go to the next slide. Another finding from this report was that nonprofit specific AI is not as widely adopted today. Many of you in your organizations are using apps like Google, where it has some built-in, or Gmail, that have some built-in AI already helping you, and or other chatbots and things like that are serving up information to you. But as it pertains to specific nonprofit related applications, we have Gravity and Futurist, a few others that are coming onto the stage that are doing work that is very tailored towards nonprofit organizations, but it's reaching less than 23% of the sector at this point in time. In balance to that, we do see that about 3/4 of nonprofits believe that AI aligns with their beliefs and that it could make their life easier. So with that in mind, the fact that we're all constrained with trying to do more with less, this does seem to be something that should be explored and be given some real serious thought within organizations' budget and strategies. We move to the next slide. So as we think about how AI adoption is actually going to roll out, the insight that came from this report is that immediate areas for improvement and kind of the way in which this will happen is a very targeted approach. So specific applications that seem to rise to the top are donor segmentation. So that gets back to the hyper personalization and the need to really build those deeper relationships with donors by using intelligence combined with human insight. Routine task efficiencies, as well as on the mission side. There are some great case studies out there already of organizations who have leveraged AI, particularly on the health and research, some of the medical research related organizations, where they've used AI to really advance some of their efforts. Go to the next slide. So some of the obstacles that we continue to hear, not only with our own clients, but also that were confirmed by this report, really fall into a few key categories. The resource side of things, both the technical resources and support, as well as the skill sets that are believed to be required, and the cost and privacy concerns. So that kind of privacy security balance, which I think tracks back to the ethical framework that concern that was raised. These are all really valid, and I think things that are going to have to continue to be addressed. But we do want to communicate, especially today, and I think you'll hear from Jennifer with some of the examples she's going to share, that there are ways to step into this without having to take on a large implementation or hire a bunch of people who are experts in this area and still have meaningful impact, which you'll see on the next slide, some examples of, which I think are encouraging, that nearly 70% of people who have started to use AI within the nonprofit space are seeing visible results. And a quarter are feeling like AI has made their life easier. So even though a lot of this is coming from innovators and early adopters in this space among the sector, that is still a really promising sign. And I think something that should encourage all of us to consider, how can we plan for some meaningful testing in this space? And certainly on the Pursuant side, we believe that the augmented intelligence definition or expansion of this concept is important because it does bring in a human aspect that helps to kind of soften potentially some of the concerns around a machine only really driving, kind of leading us into certain strategic areas. So we really believe that, especially as an agency, we're set up well to balance not only the intelligence and the science side of things, but also wrapping around that with our fundraising expertise and strategic guidance, so we can bring that to life and kind of humanize what the machine intelligence is delivering. So I guess as I start to pivot over to hand this to Jennifer, I would say, are you guys ready? Are you ready for AI? Are you ready to kind of step into this space? And even in a small way, try something through the lens of taking a little bit of a risk and really experimenting with an eye towards growth. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer to talk a little bit about how we've applied this with our clients.
Great, thanks, Hillary. I guess the way I would answer that question, are you ready? I would say yes. Being a lifelong practitioner and then now getting to serve our clients in a different way, I do think we're ready as an industry. I think we when I think about all the other verticals that have adopted AI, I think the nonprofit sector is probably the most ethical out there, right? And so I think we are poised and ready for this type of next step forward and how we create experiences for our clients. So before I get into the case studies, I want to share a little bit about how we approach fundraising at Pursuant. So you can go to the next slide, Leah. Great, thanks. So, you know, our approach is really grounded in this belief that loyalty drives value, and that's whether you're acquiring the right type of donor at the beginning, or you're driving a relationship for upgrading or sustaining with a donor that's been with your organization for a long time. We like to focus on the experience and how that experience can be leveraged to drive enriched loyalty that ultimately translates into greater generosity. And the way we do that is to find this intersection between an organization's unique value or purpose, you know, how your donors are actually interacting with you. So the behaviors that they're exhibiting, both through their giving as well as their engaging and volunteer activities. And then the important part of this diagram is the motivation. So, you know, what do they really say about your organization? How do they really feel about you? What are the things that are most meaningful for them and inspire giving and engagement? And we find that intersection through leveraging technology. So through the proprietary platform that we have, which you'll hear me reference a lot, it's called our Giving DNA platform. So we use that technology, but it's also coupled with the people, right? The clients that we serve, as well as the strategists at Pursuant. So the Giving DNA platform, you know, it's technology that leverages the data from our clients to actually help them decode that motivation and what those donors look like as people, right? And it helps us to create these very personalized experiences for those individual donors, or in mass ways, right? But Pursuant serves lots of different clients, and we like to meet them where they're at. And for some clients, they're just looking to leverage the power of the Giving DNA platform. For others, you know, they might need a little bit of help in actually taking those insights and applying those. And it's because they either need more team members on their bench, right? And so they're turning to us as an agency, or they just simply don't have that in-house capability to actually leverage the insights fully to realize the goal that they've set out with engaging Pursuant around AI. So you can go to the next slide. In either one of those relationships, like I've described with our clients, we like to make sure that we're helping them go beyond traditional RFM segmentation. That's what we're talking about here when we're talking about leveraging AI. And it's to enhance what we already know how to do really well. It's making sure that, you know, we're targeting the right donors, we're leveraging the right channels, the right time, and with the right ask. And that's all leading to a more targeted and personalized experience that ultimately is going to produce stronger results and an ROI that is better than what you're anticipating. So I'd like to get into several client examples now where we've actually done just that. The data and the augmented intelligence to drive better results. So this first case study I want to lead you through is from the Pocket Testament League. And so for those of you that are not familiar with this organization, their mission is to help Christians actually share gospel. And so they've been doing this for a long time and have developed a method in which they're able to execute on their mission. They've cast a really ambitious goal to energize more than 225,000 people by the year of 2028 to actually spread and share the word of God to over 130 million people. But what they've been experiencing for the past 3 years is some year-over-year declines with the number of gospel orders that they've been receiving, and that's impacted their revenue stream. So they have a small mid-level team But that team was looking to actually make some deeper connections with their donors, and they wanted to do that via phone. And so, you know, they set out with a goal to increase their active mid-level donor population, and they wanted to do that through some personal interactions. And it's important to note that they had been successfully using the phone, but in the sort of face of this ambitious goal, they looked at what they were achieving to date and felt like things were plateauing a little bit with that strategy, and they wanted to take it to the next level. So they turned to Pursuant and asked for a little bit of help to determine the constituents that they could go more deeply in targeting within their database to, you know, reach out through the phone. And so what we were able to do with them using their data and applying third-party data through, you know, augmented intelligence was to actually identify some mid-level donors and also prospects who would be most receptive to phone as a channel, right? So we could see that through the data that they would be most likely to pick up their phone and actually have a meaningful touch with the team at the league. So, you know, we were able to do that, and we were also able to identify for them people that actually had a philanthropic tendency, right? And would be most likely to make a gift or to actually place an order for the gospel for themselves or for others. And so what we saw when we were able to bring together their data into the platform, and leverage that through a much more targeted list for their program, we actually saw that the average gift for them, this would be a gift that's made post-call, actually increased 34%. And additionally, the contact rates for them in reaching out to those donors that they identified as being a good cohort for this type of outreach actually increased 45%. And those far exceeded the goals that they set. And it was a time to value that was much quicker than what they had experienced before. The thing that I'll share as well with this case study is we didn't just send them sort of, here's the targeted list. We actually continued to work with them through the program to sort of serve up new targeted segments and to continually sort of optimize that segment on an ongoing basis to make sure that they were able to continue to reach their goals and have a successful program. Looking forward, you know, there are plans for them to actually look into how they can enhance their mail segmentation, as well as examining, optimizing major gift portfolios to make sure that their gift officers are really targeting the right folks. So the next case study actually looks at a different use of the platform. This is an examination of an enhanced mid and major gift program. And in this particular instance, we brought together, again, technology and people. So this leveraged both the platform as well as some consultative services from Pursuant. So this client is Houston SPCA, and they're one of the leading animal rescue and protection organizations in the country. And they've got more than a dozen programs and services that include cruelty investigations and rescues, disaster response. They've been super busy with a lot of the hurricane activity down in the Gulf this season. So they're a great organization doing great work there in the Houston area. Pursuant's been working with them for the past year to advance strategies across their direct response universe. And more recently, they've engaged us to help them take their mid and major program to the next level. Had a very strong direct response program, but they were seeing limited upgrade strategy from within their program. And the thing that was most important about sort of jump starting this mid-major is that back in 2019, they opened a new campus for all animals. It's an amazing facility that cares for agricultural animals. So think about horses and pigs and chickens, all the way to what you would traditionally think in terms of animal rescue with you know, dogs and cats, more domestic animals. So big, beautiful campus that needs a steady funding source in order to continue to be able to take in animals and keep their existing programs moving forward. Similar to the Pocket Testament League, the team at Houston SPCA is small. And COVID certainly brought about some challenges for them being able to reach out to their mid and major donors. And so they needed a unique approach for, how they would actually engage and interact. They have, obviously an overarching goal to increase upgrading from their donor file. And so that's how we got involved, and were able to bring together both the platform and help them identify prospects, and to also scale the universe of prospects within their file to meet the capacity of their existing team. So, Hillary was referencing, sort of an obstacle that a lot of nonprofit organizations kind of, lean into as to why AI might not be the right time. It usually has to do with staffing resources. Two examples where very, very small teams are leveraging this. So on with the show. So what did we learn? So the initial exploration of their data actually yielded 450 qualified prospects. But we knew we needed to kind of pare that down. And so what we were able to do is to further augment that segmentation by net worth, discretionary income available, donations, were they giving higher level gifts to other organizations. And so by putting additional filters into the mix, we were able to pare that down to 145 high quality prospects that were then targeted through personal cultivation by the staff at Houston SPCA. And the thing that I think energized us as much as the team there was that the first email that they sent to this enhanced major gift prospect group actually resulted in a single gift of $100,000 from a donor that hadn't been on their radar at all as a major gift prospect. And when they looked into sort of his giving history, he had only ever previously given a gift not larger than $2,500. So it was a really fantastic first win for them. The people side of this is really important in terms of, making sure that when you invest in something like an AI engagement, like we're talking about here, is that support that comes from sort of ongoing consultation that we've actually provided. So in the case of Houston SPCA, one of our consultants meets on a monthly basis with the team there. And, they dig in, they review the list of prospects, which is continually being evolved on a regular basis. They discuss outreach strategies, they discuss challenges that they might be having with outreach, or objections, things like that might be coming over from their interactions with their clients. And most certainly they talk about the success metrics. So the final example that I'm wanting to share with you guys today, again, leverages technology, but also people. So it's an example where we've leveraged the Giving DNA platform along with comprehensive agency services around acquisition efforts. So Pursuant's been working with the Virginia Hospital Center Foundation for the last several years, and it's been to advance strategy across their direct response universe, as well as mid and major giving. For those of you, again, who might not be super familiar with this organization, they're a leading community-based hospital, and they're located in Arlington, Virginia, and they've been around for a long time. They date back as far as 1933. And they're, I guess, a pillar in the community in terms of comprehensive health services. In order to grow the donor file for Virginia Hospital Center, Pursuant actually launched a monthly direct mail and digital drip series for them to engage grateful patients and to convert them to donors. And so for hospital foundations, just generally, a primary method for acquisition for them typically is grateful patients. And so this drip series, has been successful for them in engaging and converting, hundreds of patients into donors over the last several years. But the Hospital Foundation actually welcomed new leadership earlier this year. And there was a enhanced emphasis on growing the donor file and engaging grateful patients who had received services in the past, but had yet not made a donation. So almost like a lapsed type of engagement. And so what we set out to do was to use a very targeted approach to examining sort of this cache of grateful patients, and to try to identify who the right patients would be for this investment, because it had been a while since they actually received services at the hospital itself. So what we did is we took and loaded in grateful patient data from as far back as 2018, so 2 years back, and we put them into the Giving DNA platform, and then we leveraged augmented intelligence. We used outside demographic data, psychographic data. We did some wealth screening. We looked at philanthropic behavior, and we really honed in and prioritized a targeted list for them to put out into a multi-channel campaign, which had a unique offer for the foundation. And both mail and email were deployed earlier this summer. And what we saw was a very strong response. In fact, we saw a 10% lift in conversion as compared to what the drip series had been producing for them. And what was really remarkable is we saw, an increase in average gift of 154%, again, in comparison to what they were experiencing through the original drip series. And so looking forward for the hospital foundation, they're going to continue to refine this approach, because it's become a fantastic feeder for them for acquisition and for growing their file. But they're going to look to refine it and also test a few things, seasonality for when they reach out, as well as messaging. And so there's lots that we'll be looking at with them to really try to hone in on that personalized experience that we want to have for their prospective donors who had received great care at the hospital. Now we want them to transcend into a different type of engagement with Virginia Hospital through their foundation. So Leah, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right, thank you, Jennifer and Hillary. So I imagine many of you on the call today are kind of looking forward to calendar year end, as well as the new fiscal year, especially if your fiscal year starts in January. You're probably already thinking through how can I ensure that my fundraising strategy for this new normal, or this very uncertain time, which has become a bit of a cliche phrase that I think we're all kind of tired of hearing, but it's kind of the reality we're sitting in. And so we would love to come alongside you at Pursuant. We have just a deep bench of experience and expertise working with some of these clients, as Jennifer's just highlighted. And we've also been investing strategically in technology that makes it a lot more cost effective and efficient for you to get insights from your data. And so if that describes you and you are interested in learning more, we invite you to reach out to us at pursuant.com/FSA, and that stands for the Fundraising Strategy Assessment. And that's a solution that partners up some of the technology that we've been alluding to throughout today's presentation, as well as the expertise, to kind of help you answer some of those questions that I think a lot of you are probably having with your teams today. All right, and so the final sort of minutes of today's presentation, we've got a little bit of time for some Q&A. And we've got a couple coming in already. And so Gabby would like to know, and she'd like to know about filters. So specifically filters around interests, hobbies, social media presence or preference, and household size. So I think this is a great question for you, Hillary, when it comes to what are some of the capabilities that our software offers?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, many of the things that you listed there are included. We are always looking to, I would say, broaden the data variables that we include. But right now we have a robust mix already of demographics, as well as psychographics, life stage information, financial information and communication preferences. So we do have things around interests and kind of, like I said, life stage, hobbies, occupations, things like that, that really start to give you a proxy for affinity. And then we also have information about people's household, how many adults are living at home, how many children are living at home, things like that. And then, of course, the financial indicators, not just net worth and household income, but also real estate information and as well as discretionary spend. And then on the communication side, we typically do, we have some modeling that we do around likelihood, as Jennifer referenced in a couple of the examples, likelihood to give through direct mail or be phone responsive or engage digitally. So those, we've found those models to be extremely helpful in prioritizing and informing some of our strategies with our clients. And then we also have a social media component that is not necessarily around presence, although we do have some social insights that looks at buzz and sentiment and presence. But the piece that we like to include in some of our modeling is more around influence. So the extent to which people are heavy influencers on social versus not at all. So that kind of spectrum being important, especially if you're looking at amplifying certain messages and you're wanting to enroll people who are really active.
Awesome. All right, as we wait for a few more questions to roll in, one question that I sort of had, Hillary, around that is, that sounds like a lot of information to have on people. Is that information anonymized in any way?
Yeah, it is completely anonymized, and it's all publicly available information that we get through a third party, and we match that based on the information that we have from client CRM databases about their address and that sort of thing. So within our platform, it is served up in an aggregated way. So you're looking at it in terms of your segmentation and things like that. You can get down to the individual level, but that is, as we look at decision making and prioritization, we're mostly consuming that in an aggregated fashion.
Thank you. Another question also came in around, how much data do you need to load into the platform for the insights to be actionable? The example was given, this person's got maybe 100 to 200 donors. So if that, is it better to have a larger number, or is this, if all you have is a smaller number, is that sufficient? Yeah,
because we are matching typically to a third-party data set, we do typically like to have more than just a couple hundred names. But the other way you can go about it is you can also look at enhancing names that you might have on your file that are just digitally native if you want to expand that footprint. But the thing is, we can always load in and just see what kind of match rate we get and see what kind of information we can yield from that. And depending on the strategy, if you end up wanting to target, like Jennifer mentioned on Pocket Testament League, a phone type of strategy, that can be very much a small subset. So the platform, you guys can all right now go out online after this webinar and start a free trial and load data in and see what kind of numbers it yields for you. Typically, though, as we start to look at larger strategies, we like to have a broader subset to draw conclusions from. So it really kind of depends on the application.
Thank you. This is a great question. So John wants to know how valuable is lapsed donor data?
Oh my gosh, lapsed donor data is a gold mine. There's a lot you can see within your lapsed population by loading it into something like this. You can certainly see if they're active in other places, right? So maybe they've stopped giving to you, but they're giving someplace else. You can definitely find ways to sort of narrow down that population. A lot of organizations have, I look at lapsed donors as an asset, right? And the asset is usually fairly large. And so, it oftentimes far exceeds your ability to invest in sort of reactivating them. So being able to sort of narrow that down to a group that's most likely to re-engage with you, it pays for itself. It's just a great source of data to run through a tool like Pursuant's Giving DNA platform.
Yeah, something that has been very interesting, if I can just add in, that I've been seeing with some of our clients is that, especially during the height of the pandemic, when a lot of donors were reaching out and wanting to give proactively to nonprofits, is a lot of those kind of out of the blue gifts came from that lapsed donor pool. And Jennifer, is that something you would confirm?
Yeah, you know what, there was a surge of lots of giving, as I think every organization experienced. But yes, I think for donors that had been with you in the past, we did see some of them coming back around and renewing their support, during this critical time. So I think that, kind of just an adjunct to that, and another fantastic use for the platform. Again, yes, we got lots of new donors. They're not going to be all created equal, right? Some may actually behave a little bit more like a true disaster relief kind of donor, where they come in, make a gift, and go on. But within that population of new donors that you all experience, there are some in there that immediately need to be identified and treated very differently in order for them to retain and achieve their true potential for you within their mission. And so we do have, we have clients that are actively right now looking at those new donor populations and building strategy around that.
Thanks, Jennifer. So this is a bit more of a technical question, but Gabby would like to know about data. So if someone is using the Giving DNA platform and they, let's say they identify a segment of donors that they want to then take and market to, how does the data come over? Does it come out as an Excel file that can then be uploaded into the existing donor database?
Yes. Simple answer. Yes. So you won't have access to that if you're in the free trial, but if you become a subscriber, you can absolutely export. So the tool is designed to really explore your data, serve up opportunities. And in fact, there are different segments that will basically proactively identify for you areas where you could focus if you want to drive upgrade or sustainer, et cetera. And then once you feel good about the segment, you can take a look at it, take a look at the detail, make sure you have the columns that you want to include, and then you can export that and activate on it in whatever way you choose, whether it's loading it into marketing automation, back into your CRM, or handing off to a call center.
Awesome. I think I'm going to move us along into our next steps. And so if there are any other questions that our listeners have, feel free to chat those in, and we'll fit those in as available. But, what are some takeaways that people attending today can apply in their fundraising if any of the concepts or tools sounded interesting to them?
Jennifer, did you want to?
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to talk about this. So the thing that I would say is that right now the environment is different. It's new. It's challenging for us. Staying nimble is really, really important, right? And a way to do that is to really take stock in your data, take stock in your insights, take stock in what your donors are saying to you, right? That's going to allow you to lead strongly, right? And to feel empowered to make the right decisions if you have insights into what might be happening, trends that might be happening within your program. And, you know, it says do the right next thing. It's never easy to know right now if you are doing the right next thing, but what I would say is that you need to use the information that you have at hand to make the very best decision that you can at this time, right? And so that's what, you know, I've been sharing with the leaders at the clients that we actually serve, and what I would want you guys to feel as well. So,
yeah,
Marie, anything you'd add?
Yeah, the only thing I think I would add there is the topic of today's conversation is all about helping you do the next right thing with the most, you're never going to have 100% clarity, but with the most strongest directional information you can get. So that's really what we're talking about here. Whatever you call it, we're choosing to embrace the augmented intelligence phrase, but I think in the end, it really is about using the human and intelligence-based tools to help you make those next best decisions.
Thank you both. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. As a quick reminder, you will be getting this recording sent to your inbox tomorrow. And I'm also thrilled to announce that we will be actually releasing a white paper on this topic, with the topic of augmented intelligence, and it should be dropping within the next week or so. So keep an eye peeled for that, because that will be diving into some other examples and concepts that we've explored here today. So I'm excited that we'll be able to release that to you soon. And with that, I think I'll wrap us a few minutes early. Thank you again for tuning in, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.